Democrats introducing new resolution blocking President Trump's declaration of a national emergency at the southern border. House Speaker Pelosi has stepped up her battle against the president's border wall. Watch.
Was that Mexico was going to pay for it. So it was declaring, the President of the United States declaring a national emergency to honor an applause line in a rally. Not only is he disrespecting the legislative branch, and the Constitution of the United States, he is dishonoring the office in which he served.
That was from a news conference call not long ago. Republican Congressman Chris Stewart serves on the Intelligence and Appropriations Committees. Congressman Stewart, great to have you on the program. First of all, I just want to get your reaction to Democrats pushing so hard and now on the record with a resolution against this president.
Yeah, you know, you listen to Ms. Pelosi, and I think most Americans think she's the worst spokesman that they could have for this because she isn't serious about border security, and she made that very clear. Harris, this is frustrating for me. Remember this, a year ago we were trying to get $25 billion for border security on the Appropriations Committee, which I sit. That was what the original language called for. We went to 15 to 10 to 5.7, and Ms. Pelosi's response was always not one penny, not $1. And now she's so hypercritical of the president for him doing what he desperately thinks is necessary for the security of the American southern border.
You know, this from Chuck Schumer, a Democrat, obviously. If the president's emergency declaration prevails, it will fundamentally change the balance of power and the way our country's founders never envisioned. Is he right about that?
Well, did he say the same thing when Barack Obama did something that many of us had objections to, and that is when he declared his DACA policy for Dreamers, which clearly were unconstitutional. They're clearly the prerogative of the Congress to set immigration policy. In fact, it's so clear that the president himself admitted previous to doing this that he didn't have the authority to do that. And I think we need to be consistent, Republicans or Democrats. When President Obama did that, I said he doesn't have the authority. He's not a king. He's a president. And I've also been consistent with President Trump. It worries me that he did a declaration here that I'm not convinced he has the authority to do. There actually is some very intelligent constitutional scholars, and their opinions on this is split. I look forward to seeing how the president actually appropriated money, out of what silos it comes from. But Mr. Schumer is, I think, crying enormous crocodile tears when he's critical of this president, but was entirely supportive of President Obama for something which was much more clearly outside of his authority to do.
It's so interesting to hear you talk that way, because you're taking the Democrats to task, but you're also saying that maybe not the way to go for, for the Republican president either. Very interesting, Congressman Stewart. I want to move on now to what's happening with the Mueller investigation. First of all, let's hear from the president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani. All right. Well, we're not going to hear from him. You're going to hear me read it. So there we go. We expect something in the next 2 weeks. If Mueller clears the president, we walk away and say thank you. If it is damaging, then we will respond. What do you make of it?
Well, I think that's about right. We've seen indications. We don't have clear insight into the Mueller investigation. It's separate from the House Intelligence Committee, but we do have some indications. We know that some prosecutors have left. They haven't been replaced. He's clearly moved some of these cases to other district courts, a Southern District in New York, in some cases of Virginia. Indications where he was beginning to ramp down. I've been saying for a couple months now, I think he's close, and I think a lot of Americans who expect and lay awake at night think we're going to impeach Donald Trump are going to be very disappointed with the Mueller conclusions. I don't think there's going to be any evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, and I think this is going to make that clear. One thing I hope to see as well, Harris, and that is for the report to be released. I hope every word of it is released. For one thing,
William Barr, the new AG, says he'll do it according to the rules and the protocols, and of course any redactions would have to do with sources and methods, right?
Exactly, and the sources and methods is the key to this, because we know this isn't truly in the normal sphere of national security. We're not talking about foreign agents. We're talking about inside politics. And the American people, I think, realize that. We're not talking about Russian spies or Chinese spies. This is American politics. And if we don't release it, if we redact anything, A lot of people are going to say, see, the collusion is in those redactions. It's in this line. It's in this paragraph. They just won't tell us. And I'm afraid the conspiracy theories will live on for years about, well, this is what we don't know because they hid it from us.
Well, Rudy Giuliani just gave us a bit of a timeline. It's frustrated by all of the fast-fire reporting, maybe with or without the facts earlier this week, that it's coming within days. But we'll cover it when it happens. I see the great state of Utah behind you. Congressman Stewart, good to see you.
Come out and let's go skiing.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
There was another battle going on today. Take a look.
Will you definitively veto that resolution that was introduced today that would block your national emergency if it passes?
On the wall?
Yes.
Will I veto it? 100%.
Well, House Democrats are still planning to introduce a resolution aimed at overturning the president's emergency declaration to build that wall. We've got Florida Republican Senator Rick Scott joining us. Senator, thank you for coming. The president says he would stop that any way he could, but Democrats are still intent, and at least 8 states and their attorneys general are looking to do just that. What do you make of all this?
Well, first off, I don't think it's the president's first choice was to use his emergency power, but his job is to keep us safe. The Democrats, you know, I've been in D.C. for a little less than 2 months. The Democrats will say, oh, we want border security. They just won't fund it. They say we want to take care of the DACA kids. They just won't do it. So the president doesn't have a choice. We have to secure our border. I was down at the border a little over a week ago meeting with border security. They said we need more people. We need newer technology. Their technology is very old. And we need some barriers to direct people where they should be coming in so we can make sure we have legal immigration and don't have illegal immigration. So I think the president's in a tough position, but I believe he ought to be using his emergency power to keep us safe.
All right. If I could switch gears a little bit, you know, North Carolina is looking at a do-over on that congressional election, the only one that wasn't decided, as you know. And Mark Harris has already said, yeah, go ahead, call for a new election. It's all over absentee ballots, miscounts, a lot of that. Are you worried for Republicans that this is either a tempest at a teapot or just an isolated incident and move on?
Well, I think, look, if you want to win elections, you have to have a message and you have to work your tail off to give people a reason to vote for you. So, you know, we have to make sure elections are honest, ethical, fair, and we don't want any fraud in them, as we've tried to do, make sure we did in Florida, make sure that they were free and fair. So I think this is just one example of an election that didn't seem to work out right. So it appears they're doing the right thing. All right, so this idea that they're going to be more scrutinizing of absentee ballots in the future might not apply here in this special election, whatever it is. Is it something that both parties should pay more attention to? This was, again, the president, a lot of North Carolina officials are saying in this district, isolated. The sacred right to vote, that it should never be diluted by somebody doing something wrong. We've got to be very careful, especially when we have mail-in ballots, that there's no fraud involved. So I think we have to be very careful with mail-in ballots and these absentee ballots. Okay. Let me step back, and we were talking about the markets at the start of the show and the economy, optimism on the trade front and everything else. What is your, I mean, you gained your fortune, you know, in the healthcare arena and some of the promising signs and technologies that went with that. Some have said we are beginning to see that again now, and a lot of that is propelling this activity, that it was too far the other way back in December. What are your thoughts on that? Well, look, when I was in business, I always worked to make sure that I was tried to be at the leading edge of whatever was going to take care of my customer. The biggest company I ran was a large hospital company, and we wanted to make sure, how do I make sure I had the best pricing, best patient satisfaction, best outcomes for our patients. And so technology can do that. So if you look at what's going on right now, it's exciting. Now, we do have to figure out how can we drive down the cost of drugs. We have to figure out how we have a delivery system that works better. We got to make sure people can get health care even if they have a pre-existing condition. But it's exciting what's going on in technology, especially in the healthcare arena. Real quickly, Senator Bill Weld, the former Massachusetts governor, is planning on challenging the president for the Republican nomination. Others could follow, maybe not a lot of others, but what do you think of that? Well, look, I think the president has worked his tail off to try to make it better. He's living up to his campaign promises. Look at what's happened to our economy. I always tell him he's doing what we did in Florida. He's cut taxes, reduced regulation, and jobs have come back. We added 1.7 million jobs. They've added millions of jobs since President Trump was elected. So that's the number one thing. And number two is we got to make sure people are safe. He's trying his best to do that. We're building up the military again. He's working on border security. I think it'll be very difficult to beat him in a primary.
All right. We'll watch it closely. Senator Scott, it's always a pleasure.
Nice seeing you, Neil.